Hi everybody! I know there are a ton of you in this group who love to do public speaking and would love to do even more of it. So I thought today I would jump in and share with you one of my top secrets for getting more public speaking. And I'm talking about invitations that just flow into my inbox. I very rarely pitch myself to speak anywhere, like maybe once or twice a year at the most. Now, part of this is that I've been speaking for like a decade. And so some things tend to pop up in my inbox, but I'm going to give you today one of the most effective ways I've gotten more speaking. I can see a couple of you starting to hop in now, so I know we're live and the Facebook algorithms are starting to share this with more folks. Say hi if you're here. The more of you who say hi and who engage, the more people will get the chance to see this, okay? So if you get my email newsletter, this is something I talked about recently, but it never hurts to hear it again and to remind you over and over and over and over how important this is. So 2 weeks ago, I had a speaking engagement. It came, actually, I wrote a newsletter about that a while back. It came as a result of a piece I wrote like 5 years ago, and one of the executives I met when I wrote that story started following me on social media. And because I talk about my speaking on social media all the time, she knew that I do speaking on personal branding. And so when her organization was looking for a personal branding speaker, they thought of me. And it was a paid speaking gig that was amazing. I had such a great time. So here's what I want to teach you. And it's about how to promote these speaking gigs when you have them so you can get more. Most of you are pretty good about posting a picture from the event itself, okay? You'll post a picture of yourself speaking, or maybe it's with the crowd afterwards, and you'll say, I had so much fun talking at this, women's entrepreneurs event tonight, blah, blah, blah. That's great, but it's not enough, okay? I got to cheat here because I don't know this off the top of my head, but I went back and I looked for this speaking gig I had a couple weeks ago at how many times I mentioned this speaking gig on social media, in my email newsletter, like how many times I publicly talked about it, because so many of my speaking engagements now come from someone who sees me talking about a previous engagement. They see a social media post, they see me talking about it in my newsletter, and then they contact me and they say, hey, I saw you spoke recently to this group. My group would love to have you come in and speak. That is how I get almost all of my speaking, folks, between that and writing for Forbes, quite honestly, being a contributor for Forbes for years and years. I'm not talking about going on Forbes and doing one guest post. I'm talking about writing for Forbes for years, okay? I wrote there for 2 years before I went to ESPN, and I've been back there for 2 years. Not to mention that the time I was gone, I was writing for ESPN. So that's how I get a lot of my speaking too. So if you've been thinking about guest blogging, good reason to guest blog on one of these huge outlets is it is a fantastic source of speaking leads. Okay, but let's talk about how you promote your speaking on social media. I saw Patricia join, and Danielle and Reese. Hopefully, you guys, if you're commenting on this, it'll actually say something to me, but it's not. You know what? I just reloaded my Facebook on my iPad because it wasn't telling me what you guys were saying. It wasn't showing my comments, and I thought I had fixed the problem because now I can at least see you guys are joining. Still didn't fix it. I see where Danielle said hi. Hi, Danielle. If you guys are here live, say hi so I know you're here. All right, let me give you my example of how many times I promoted this last speaking gig, okay? The speaking gig was on December 3rd, okay? So just picture that. Speaking gig is on December 3rd. Okay, October 30th is when I got this speaking gig, when it was finalized and I was allowed to talk about it publicly. So on October 30th, I posted on my personal Facebook profile and on Twitter that I got a new speaking gig, and I said what the topic was. I said it was personal branding. At that point, I don't think I was allowed to say who it was for, so I didn't. But I said I got a speaking gig on personal branding, okay? That's important. It's important that people know what topics you speak on. The whole point of what I'm about to read you and all of these times I talked about my speaking is that the more you talk about it, the more people are aware that you are a speaker, and the more that you share the topic and the audience that you're getting in front of, the more they understand the types of audiences you speak to, the topics you speak to, okay? Incredibly important. And I don't want you to ever think you're talking about it too much. I've never met anyone who talked about it too much. It's hard to overdo it because Not everyone sees every post. Even all of these that I'm going to read you, most of you didn't see. I bet none of you saw every single one of these. Okay. So October 30th, personal Facebook profile, and on I have two Twitter. I have a sports Twitter from sort of my previous life as a sports business reporter, and I have my business one. So I shared it on my sports one. Okay, November 8th, posted in this Facebook group about how I got the speaking gig. Okay, I told you guys the whole story. I did a whole post about how this person knew me from a previous guest blog I had done and then eventually asked me to speak. Okay, that same day, I also emailed my list a similar story about how I get speaking engagements, and I included reference to this particular speaking gig. Okay, then November 30th, I posted to my personal Facebook profile about the speaking gig, and I had a picture of the brochure because I knew that would grab attention in the timeline. That same day, I also tweeted about the speaking gig and had a picture of the brochure. Okay. December 1st, I shared on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook a sweater I received as a gift from the event organizers, and again, mentioned my speaking role, okay? Then you have the date of the speaking gig, which was December 3rd. On December 3rd, I shared on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook a photo of my book on the display table at the speaking gig before my speech. So they had this set up, and they had asked me in advance for copies of my book, and they had it on a display table there. So I took a picture before my speech started and shared that on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Then later that day, after I was done speaking, I again shared on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook a photo of me speaking at the event. Okay, then the next day, December 4th, I shared on my Facebook business page, my Twitter business account, and my Instagram business account a photo of me speaking at the event and referencing the type of audience and the topic of my speech. On that same day, December 4th, I also shared a photo and details about my speech on LinkedIn. I get a ton of my speaking from LinkedIn, okay? If you're a speaker, you need to be on LinkedIn and be active. And if you need advice on what to do on LinkedIn, I wrote a great post about it. The first post I ever wrote for Fast Company. I can get you guys the link, but that will help you set up your LinkedIn to get more speaking gigs. Okay, and then also later that day, I talked about my speaking gig in another email to my list, and then I laughed and said it's happening right now, because that was I'm reading you guys like the email. Okay, so that was 11 instances, okay, 11, and some of those were on multiple social media accounts. So 11 times I talked about one speaking gig, okay? I do that every time, and I am telling you, it's never going to be too much because no one's going to see all of those. You're on different networks. You have different audiences on each network. Plus, you know how the algorithm works. It doesn't show everybody everything, okay? So it's not going to be too much. You are letting people know you are a speaker. These are the types of topics you speak on. These are the types of audiences you get in front of. When you share like that, every single time you have a speaking engagement, you are opening up opportunities for that next speaking engagement. I promise you, I've been doing this for years. No one has ever accused me of being overly self-promotional about it. No one's ever said boo to me about how many times I post about each speaking engagement. So if you're like thinking in your head, people are going to get sick of it and what are they going to think of you? No, they won't see them all anyway. And I had them spaced out over 6 weeks, okay? But the more I talk about that I'm a speaker and the types of audiences I'm speaking in front of and the topics I'm speaking on, the more people email me and want to book me as a speaker. I'm telling you, I've been doing it for years. It works. I promise you, okay? Danielle said she would like the link to the LinkedIn post. Yeah, so as soon as I get done here live, I will get you the link to that post. Okay, I don't see any other questions, and I have got a webinar here today to get to. If you haven't been on one of my webinars and you want more publicity tips and tricks from me, the webinar starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time today. There is a 72-hour replay if you can't make that, but I encourage you, make it live because there's some bonus gifts if you make it live. Go to guidemybrand.com/webinar. That's it, guidemybrand.com/webinar. Hope to see you there. Bye, guys.